college. So if you would have told me 4 years ago that I would choose to attend college at a small Christian school on the North Shore of Massachusetts like Gordon, I probably would have laughed at you and then proceeded to give you my reasons why I thought a Christian college was not the place for me to get a good education. And yet, here I am. Needless to say, things change very quickly in my world. But let me back up a bit and introduce myself a little bit. If you don't already know, my name's Amaylah, and this is probably my last chapel service ever here as a student, which is really weird. I was born in Livingston, New Jersey, and I lived there until my parents got divorced when I moved to Arizona with my mom and my two sisters. We lived there for 10 years, and then we moved to Brockton, Massachusetts, where I now live. And it was in Massachusetts that I got saved during my sophomore year of high school. And since that day that I got saved, the Lord has taken me on an incredible journey, wilder than one that I could have ever written myself. My time at Gordon has been an irreplaceable part of that journey. The past 4 years, I've grown so many ways during my time here at Gordon. I've grown spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, and even physically if you count the freshman 15. But the past 4 years have been so jam-packed with experiences, hills and valleys, different types of crises, moments of revelation and disappointment, all of which are impossible to share with you in the next 10 minutes. But I hope that by sharing just a few of those experiences, which stand out the most to me, you'll be able to get a glimpse of God's incredible presence and faithfulness throughout my journey, and be encouraged for his presence and faithfulness in your own journey. So we'll start with my first day at Gordon as a student. My family and I are pulling into Evans Hall for move-in day. It was a sunny Wednesday, and my family's car was greeted by a horde of complete strangers yelling very loudly at our car, welcoming us to Gordon. Needless to say, I was pretty shocked, but I remember at that moment the excitement and nervousness setting in. I thought, oh crap, what have I gotten myself into? But I remember walking through the doors of the hall to pick up my key, and I'll never forget the first words that my RA said to me. She said, "You're Amaylah. I've been praying for you on our floor." And while for some this might not mean much or might freak them out a little bit, for me, I immediately felt comforted. The fact that this complete stranger was praying for me and the floor that I would soon live on before she even met me was something really unique and special that I'd never experienced outside of my own church before. But it was after my parents finally left and school commenced that the real work began. Having come from a huge inner city school and being used to being surrounded by friends and family that were very loud and expressive, living on my floor was very different for me. Most of the girls there were quiet. They came from different types of suburbs and random parts of Connecticut. Some had been homeschooled. I had never met anyone in my life that had been homeschooled. And so a lot of them liked cats. It was just very different. And while me and my roommate had some commonalities, even us two were very different from each other. And needless to say, together we were a very unique bunch. And so while living on that floor, I had to share very uncomfortable times. I could easily say that that was one of the best floors that I've ever had during my time at Gordon. And that was because each of the people on the floor were so willing to get to know me and be open more and build community than people that I'd ever met before in my life. And our RA was so intentional and prayerful, and she really made an effort to make our floor feel like a family. And I think she was pretty successful because a lot of us are still friends now. So in my first year, building relationships with people and coming to know beliefs that were really different than my own beliefs was a big theme. And while it came with some irritating moments and theological struggles, my view of God expanded tremendously. I was exposed to different aspects of him that challenged my beliefs and ways of doing things. And this was an invaluable process for me, which I never anticipated in the beginning. I thought that going to a Christian school, everyone would be the same. Clearly, I was wrong. But fast forward to spring of my junior year. A lot has happened already, and I found myself laying on a bed under a mosquito net at a Christian university in the small East African country of Uganda. I had chosen to study abroad here at Uganda Christian University for the semester. It was my first night there, and I was feeling very nervous, but mostly excited. So excited that I couldn't even sleep. But it was after my first full day of the semester that I found myself in a more severe version of my floor freshman year. Not only was I the only person in that group from Gordon, but I was the only black person in a group of 27 other girls from different Christian colleges around the United States. You would think I'd be more used to this having lived in Massachusetts for a while, but the whole experience took a whole different flavor being in a foreign country with them as the only Americans I could reference. Further preventing any type of normal or comfortable adjustment, I was in a country full of people that looked just like me. We shared the same skin tone, but in fact weren't like me in any of the ways that I expected them to. It was very awkward, and not to mention lonely at times. Still, it never ceases to amaze me how the Lord can use situations like this to show us himself. There's a quote from one of our readings that semester that forever changed my view and value of relationships, especially those which we wouldn't choose on our own. It is from the 1963 book Primal Vision, written by English Bishop John Taylor, and it goes, "We have thought of the temple of the Lord as complete in us. Consequently, we have preached the gospel from the point of view of the wealthy man who casts a mite into the lap of the beggar, rather than from the point of view of the husbandman who casts his seed into the earth, knowing that his own life and the lives of all connected with him depend on the crop which result from his labor." While this quote immediately seems to address the matter of evangelism and sharing our faith, I think more broadly and more importantly, it talks about relationships with others, relationships with those that are unsaved, and relationships with those that are simply unlike us. Over the course of my semester in Uganda, this quote helped me to realize how much I don't and need to better value relationships with people that aren't like me, not just those relationships that are convenient and beneficial for me. It helped me to realize that I need these relationships for the sake of my faith, and how immensely valuable these types of relationships can be. My experience in Uganda helped me to understand more deeply that the temple of the Lord isn't complete in me and all that I know and love, and I need others to truly be and experience the place where God dwells. There's so much more that I could say about this semester that I feel like I could spend the rest of the time up here just talking about how I don't have enough time to say everything I need to say. But what I can say is that my semester in Uganda really challenged me. It shook up my beliefs, disoriented me, and warmed my heart to a greater extent than any other 5 months of my entire life. Then again, if you would have asked me just a couple of weeks before I went on this journey, I would have told you that I'm not even sure if Uganda was the place that the Lord wanted me to go, and I probably could have given you a list of reasons why. But then again, things change very quickly in my world, and I'm sure they do in yours too. In retrospect, it seems that the Lord's the only thing that really remains constant through it all. Proverbs 19:21 says that many are the purposes in a person's heart, and it is the Lord's plan that prevails. This has been my go-to scripture during this season of my life, as I'm in my last moments of my journey at Gordon. The time is right for me to have another one of my existential crises. What am I going to do after graduation? Who's going to hire me? What do I even want to do after graduation? And who will I be? I could spend my time frantically trying to apply for everything I could get my hands on to find my identity and map out my 5-year plan for my future. However, now, having reflected on how God has directed the journey of my life in such beautiful ways up to this point, without giving me much prior notification, gives me a sense that everything will be okay. T.S. Eliot, in his poem Quartets, paints a nice picture of this place that I've come to, a sense of peace and stillness in the face of so much change. And I'll now read it to close. At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards, at the still point, there the dance is, neither arrest nor movement, and do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered, neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point, the still point. There would be no dance, and there is only the dance. I can only say, there we have been, but I cannot say where, and I cannot say for how long, for that is to place it in time. The inner freedom from practical desire, the release from action and suffering, release from the inner and the outer compulsion, yet surrounded by a grace of sense, a white light, still and moving.